everybody. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend and all of that. We had a good one, but man, drank a lot on Saturday night, so we were kind of hungover yesterday, but that's okay.
Yeah, okay. And today was a cold and rainy day for Florida and dark.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't cold, but it was...
set 50 degrees.
Yeah, and it was kind of rainy.
And dark all day. That's unusual for here.
So we were kind of sleepy.
Yeah, it made us sleepy all day.
But,
It's like the sun never came up. That's what it felt like.
I mean, I kind of like weather like that, though.
Well, it's because it's rare here, If I come to Boston, the shit's fucking like half the year. Like
sunny shit makes me, depressed, So, this movie right here, Phantom recommended it and said that he's very happy that we picked it because he just watched it last night just in case. And the thing about it, because you recommended a lot of movies, and I wanted to watch this one, though, because one, it was free on YouTube, and two, I was like, man, the title and premise of that sounds really familiar. The reason it sounded really familiar to me was because a while back, if you saw my review that I did on the Lucio Fulci movie, The New York Ripper, from 1982, the script of this movie was initially supposed to be that movie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they wrote the script back in the early 80s, the two guys that wrote it, and that was supposed to be New York Ripper. But then when Lucio Fulci got hold of it, they're like, well, they took out the angle that's in this movie about the killer having progeria, the rapid aging disease, and decided instead to make the killer quack like a duck, because why not? But I actually like New York Ripper. I tease.
What's the name of it?
What? The New York Ripper.
Oh, I didn't see it, yeah.
No, you didn't see it. It's a Lucio Fulci movie.
Quacking like a duck? He quacked like a duck in it?
Yeah.
All right, I didn't know what you were talking about.
It's a whole thing.
Okay.
But yeah, so then later on, the movie was given to Ruggero Deodato, who I think was supposed to have this movie originally, but then they gave it to him and he made this, and this is kind of what it was originally supposed to be like, and this came out in 1988. Now, in the US, it's generally released as Phantom of Death. It has a bunch of different titles, though, as a lot of Italian movies do. I believe in the UK and other parts of Europe, I think it was released as Off Balance, which I don't really get that. Phantom of Death is actually probably, it's not a great title, but it's probably better because this does have a little bit of a Phantom of the Opera kind of element to it, and it's kind of parts of it are set in Venice, and there's part where he's wearing a mask that's kind of like a Phantom of the Opera thing, so I can kind of see why they called it that.
It feels like a foreign movie. It feels like an Italian movie to me.
Yeah, even though there's obviously the two main actors, Michael York is in this, who's British, and Donald Pleasence is in it, he's British too, isn't he?
He's classing the place up.
Yeah.
And Michael York classes it up a little bit too.
Yeah, and they're not dubbed, which is great.
Their own language.
I think everybody, I don't know.
Just like at a fucking Logan's Run. You don't have to die. He does that voice in there.
Well, that's his voice. I mean,
it's just
he can't really
He's
help
got a
it.
funny voice sometimes.
He does kind of, yeah. And I mean, this movie, it's kind of it's sort of like a giallo movie, the first part of it. You know what I mean? In the sense that at first, the first third of it, I want to say, you have your standard, killer who you don't know it is going around stabbing people. But pretty early on in the movie, they reveal that the killer is, in fact, spoiler alert, Michael York, our main character. Which, like I said, you could probably figure out beforehand. You know what I mean? So it's not like a giallo in the sense that it's an unknown killer for the whole time and there's all these, suspects. All these red herrings of who it could be. They establish pretty early on that Michael York, the main character, is the killer. And so the suspense just kind of comes from, Donald Pleasence's character, who's the inspector, trying to catch him and not being able to.
I'm surprised to hear that this is 1988.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot earlier. It seems more like 82.
Well, the script was from much earlier.
Okay. I remember 88 very well. And this movie would have seemed very dated in 88. This isn't exactly the kind of movie I would watch without Jen. But watching it with Jen, it's kind of more, like you said, it's like an Italian giallo movie. She's into those, and the comments and shit that she makes. And sometimes I'll have to ask questions and she'll be able to answer it. It's got a lot of European cars in it that are quite trip to fucking see. I'm trying to figure out what brand that car was. Are those Volvos or what? Or fucking Fiats? It was just kind of a weird movie. She mentioned there's ninjas in it, and I didn't notice that there were ninjas in it. But
you must have been looking away during this.
Might have looked away.
Well, I totally forgot about it until Phantom brought it up. He's like, I love that there was just ninjas in it randomly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, they don't really explain. Like, because at first they just kind of show some ninjas, and I'm like, okay, so there are ninjas. It's the 80s. I guess you were contractually obligated to put ninjas in your movie, whether they belonged in there or not. But then you see, like, later on that it's actually Michael York is, like, doing ninja training, I guess. Like, he's at a class where they're, like, teaching him ninja shit, like, with the sword and everything. But they never explain, like, why that is or why he's doing that. So I think they just kind of put the ninjas in there because 80s.
80s.
And ninjas were cool.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really have anything to do with anything else that's going on in the movie. But
it's just funny what they would make us believe back then.
Fucking ninjas.
There was shit I believed about martial arts that were totally false. But it was in Black Belt magazine, you know?
Yeah.
And it was in video games.
It must be true.
Yeah. I would have believed, I believed Bloodsport a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember it. Yeah, I was like, yeah, something like that did happen. No,
yeah, that's totally real.
No.
That's not.
Frank Dux.
That was totally made up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Frank Dux.
So as I mentioned, this was directed by Ruggero Deodato, who made lots of different kind of films, but probably is best known among horror fans in the United States for the infamous Cannibal Holocaust, which we have reviewed on this channel also.
Don't watch that horrible movie. As soon as that dude stuck that fucking sharp stick through, or blunt stick
I really
through that
like
quad
that
movie, I was like,
movie,
nah, that's it.
Except all the animal
Nah,
cruelty
as soon as I
in
saw him do that, I was like, nah,
All the
fuck
animal cruelty
this.
in it.
That shit was not cool. I didn't want to see any more of that crap.
I don't know.
And
Really,
I hunt. I'll kill animals, but not like that.
I mean, that's fucked up.
And for food, not just for a movie. Fuck no. That's bad news. Bad juju. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's a little messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
a little
bad
messed up. Yeah, Subjective Perspective Collective says Donald Pleasence goes ham in the street. Yeah, that was a pretty awesome scene. That was like after one scene where Michael York's character, whose name is what's his name? Robert.
Yeah.
Robert Dominici. And he's like taunting, which like again, that was one aspect that they kept from the original script that carried over into New York Ripper, where you have this killer that's like calling the cops and taunting them all the time, like in his duck voice. But in this one, you know, he just has his regular Michael York voice. But he is kind of disguising it, so he doesn't know who he is. But, yeah, there's one scene where he calls, and he's basically like, hey, I'm just in a cafe, like, right across the street. I can see your shirt and all this other kind of stuff. Like, I see you in the window. And Donald Pleasence just, like, runs out in the street. You bastard! You bastard! It's, like, pretty awesome. But yeah, and Phantom's, like, Donald Pleasence gets typecast a lot. We actually said that while we were watching this movie.
He plays the same role in every movie.
That he's basically, like, plays the same type of character. I mean, he really did get...
He's the same role.
Typecast. He's usually, like, a cop or a scientist or a doctor or something like that, like some kind of authority figure.
Yeah, he's like I would say the only role he ever did that I think was different from the other ones was when he played the guy from THX 1138. When he played
yeah, that's right.
That was pretty different for him, but still it was like an authority figure.
Or priest. Yeah, he plays priest sometimes.
Yeah, it's always an authority figure. He does class the joint up though, but he is the same fucking character in every movie.
Pretty much, yeah.
He's Dr. Loomis in all of them.
Pretty much, yeah. But
that's not a bad thing. That's what you hire him for.
That's what I mean. It's like you hire Donald Pleasence because you want a Donald Pleasence type of guy.
You're gonna Donald Pleasence the fuck out of this
He's
shit.
Gonna Donald Pleasence the fuck out of it. And that's like I said, that's what he gets paid for.
His job is to sell your cheap ass movie.
Yeah. Although, like I said, this movie was actually much. There's a lot of nudity in it, as Phantom brought up. Even though on YouTube, I noticed that they didn't. Whoever posted it didn't censor the titties.
Well, it's not very explicit, and it's very fucking, fucking SD. You know, the definition is kind of low.
Yeah, so I guess they didn't really bother with it.
Yeah.
But I was
kind
like
of fuzzy
because I was like, normally, like when we did another movie that was free on YouTube, like they had cut out like some of the violence and stuff, but it doesn't look like anything's been cut out of the YouTube version of this because there's not a huge amount of kills in this, but the ones that you see are pretty. I don't know if I'd say graphic, but they're pretty bloody. Yeah. Like there's that one great one. I think it's his first, the first kill. No, it's not. It's the second one. Where the girl basically, like, he sticks her in the neck, I think, like, with the knife, and she, like, falls backward through a window, and there's just, like, blood spraying in this huge fountain and stuff like that, and it looks pretty cool.
The nudity that it did have was not gratuitous. That's why it didn't. Wasn't real graphic.
Yeah.
It also wasn't real sexual, so.
Yeah.
And none of these women are particularly stacked. I mean, you know, if these chicks had fucking triple G's and shit, then they'd probably like, oh, we can't have that. A cup, yeah, that's all right. You know, that was kind of the feeling
It's like it's not,
I get sometimes. Oh,
like
that shit,
like it doesn't even count.
It doesn't count. Yeah,
They're too small to
it doesn't count. Oh, not those little things. Yeah,
that's fucked up, but that's probably exactly what the reasoning is.
Exactly.
That's
You put
exactly.
some 1980s California implant enhanced fucking Tiffany Towers fucking beach balls on there, they're gonna censor them. YouTube's gonna say no.
Yeah, they're like, that's a little.
No, that's unacceptable.
That's a little.
They're like church girls, church women, church ladies.
I mean, boobs are boobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're all boobs.
But yeah, somebody brings up, and I'm not ever sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. Edwige Fenech.
Yeah.
But she was in a bunch of giallo movies, going back to like the 70s, maybe even the 60s. I can't, because I know I've reviewed a couple that she was in, and she was like really, wasn't she in Case of the Scorpion's Tail, I want to say, or something like one of those. And unfortunately, she doesn't get naked in this one, but some of the other women do, because she's kind of like a major part in this. So the whole plot of this, it takes place in Italy, and I'm assuming, even though they clearly are not Italian, I'm assuming that Michael York and Donald Pleasence are supposed to be playing Italians because they have Italian names, right? Like Michael York's character, his last name is Dominici, and Donald Pleasence's character, he's Inspector Dati. So they have Italian names, but they're not Italian, obviously. But like I said, they're not dubbed, which I thought was kind of... Now, I think that there's one scene with that I think Phantom brought up earlier with Giovanni Radici, and he was in a Lucio Fulci films and shit like that. He's been in a ton of like Italian movies. I think he might have been dubbed. The one scene that he was in, he played like a priest. But a lot of the actors in this are not dubbed, which is very unusual for an Italian film. So I thought that was kind of refreshing that I got to hear most people's real voices. So I thought that was kind of weird. But yeah, so the story behind this, like I said, this is a really good idea, and now I'm kind of interested. Like, I really like what Ruggero Deodato did with this film, but now I'm kind of curious to see what Fulci would have done with it back in the early 80s had he not decided to change the script and essentially make it the New York Ripper. Because the New York Ripper, like I said, the killer does taunt the police and stuff, but he has a duck voice. Also, New York Ripper, Fulci changed it so that the killer stabbed every victim in the vagina. So there was that. Fulci had some issues with women, in case you didn't know. But I do really like a lot of his movies, though. But so this one, there's a very famous pianist, not a penis, a pianist, as in a person who plays piano. Okay. So he's
not a person that likes penis.
Or a person that likes
Yeah, the pianist. Yeah. We got him all over the show. Where's Zach? I gotta fucking mention Zach every time.
Yeah. It's like a penis.
I don't know where I come.
I'm a penis enthusiast.
Yeah, penis. Yeah. Got a dick fetish.
Yeah, that'd be funny if you had like a business card that said penis enthusiast on it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure somebody's got to have that somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so implication being that he's actually quite famous and quite wealthy. Looks like, judging by his house and everything like that. So at the very beginning, he's giving like a concert. And all these fancy people are there, and it's supposedly this big deal and everything like that. But then it's also like intercutting with this woman who you're led to assume is a doctor. It looks like, someone's coming in a doctor's office and stuff, and you're seeing things from the killer's POV. And she gets horribly murdered. But you can tell that she knows who the killer is, because she does that whole turning around like she's scared, and then she's like, oh, it's you. You know what I mean? So there's that. So after at the beginning, like Michael York's character, Robert, looks all young and dashing and everything like that. And he has this girlfriend. I mean, okay, I'm assuming she's the girlfriend because she was saying something like she wanted to talk to him, and she kind of was saying about getting married and stuff like that. And he was just like, nah, he didn't really see him all that enthused. But then she was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess it's fine that you don't want to marry me or whatever. So there was this whole conversation. But then his problem is solved not too long after this, because don't they have like a fight, and I think she goes and fucks somebody else, and then she gets murdered like on the way home, like by this killer that's terrorizing the city. And Michael York acts really, really upset about it. And then he kind of disappears for a little while. Like, he gets interviewed by the cops because obviously that's his girlfriend. But they're like, oh, well, obviously he didn't have anything to do with it because he was just so distraught. And he's like, oh, you have to catch this person and all that other kind of stuff. So then he kind of goes into hiding for a little while. Like, he goes and stays at his mom's house. I think that she says that he's there for 2 months. I think the thing about this movie is that it seems to take place over quite a long period of time. I'm not sure exactly how long, but it's at least several months. You know what I mean? So it's not... They don't make it super clear, like, how long it is. But he stays with his mom for, like, 2 months. And during this time period, you start to learn that Robert is suffering from a real disease, which is called progeria. This was the same disease, incidentally, that was discussed in the 1983 vampire film The Hunger, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Even though, technically, I guess David Bowie's character didn't have progeria, because he just had, like, incompatibility between human blood and vampire blood, and that was making him age rapidly. But that's what they thought that it was. So it is a real disease, and I don't know if this is true or not, because usually everybody I ever heard about that got progeria get it when they're a kid. You know, it's a childhood disease generally. And usually the kids will get it, and they just, like, start aging super, super rapidly, and obviously they don't end up living very long, and it's pretty fucking sad. And they do have one scene in this where somebody tells Robert, there's like, oh, there's this other person that has this disease, like, in this area. And he goes and, like, sees them, and it's a kid. You can tell it's a kid. And I'm looking at that kid going, is that makeup? Or is that really somebody that has that? I think it really because that would be messed up if they got, like, a real person that had that. Unless they were like, yeah, I'll be in a movie, it's fine. I don't know. Yeah. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is true because usually, the disease manifests in childhood. And like I said, they usually die very, very young. But I guess, at least according to this movie, in very, very rare circumstances, it can just, like, suddenly come on. So he's, like, supposed to be in his 30s or something like that. But then he starts, like, rapidly aging. And I have to say that the makeup job, I don't know how much what the budget on this movie was, but the makeup job, the aging that they did on Michael York looked really good. I mean, really good. Like, and even, like, the shots that they had, like, in daylight, like, while he was at the park and stuff like that. I mean, it didn't look super fake. And they almost kind of made him look like they fucked his teeth up, kind of. And they almost made him kind of look... saw a review of this where somebody compared him to... the original, it wasn't the original, but the Jekyll and Hyde with Frederick March, like from the 30s.
Yeah.
The makeup job kind of recalls that a little bit. Like, almost like he's, like atavistic, like he's a throwback. Because they kind of made him look Neanderthal-y, slightly. But not overtly, you know what I mean? So, but I think they did a really good job, like, on the makeup in this. So he starts to, like, age super, super rapidly. Now, why this is a problem... is because Donald Pleasence, the inspector, he's no dummy. And he suspects that the very famous Robert Dominici is the killer. But the first person that was killed, who was this doctor, they found skin flakes or something, like, under her fingernails, and were somehow, I think this is bullshit, I don't think they could do this in the 80s, but whatever, it's just for the movies. They could probably do it now, but I don't know about back then. Where they said there's skin flakes under her fingernails, and we were able to determine that the killer was in their 30s, right? But then, as the victims begin to pile up, obviously he's aging, so now, like, the evidence that they're finding on the victims' bodies, they're like, well, now the dude's, like, in his 50s, and now this is, like, an old man, and you know what I mean? And, like, so Edwige Fenech's character, she gets attacked, like, she doesn't die, but she's kind of getting together with Michael York's character. Like, they've kind of reconnected, like, after his other girlfriend got killed. And he knocks her up, and then he goes to kill her, but she doesn't recognize him because he's aged so much. And he's, like I said, he's been gone for a couple months, so he looks totally different. So when she describes her attacker to the police, obviously she describes, like, an old man who's, like, balding and shit like that because she didn't recognize him. So I thought that was, like, that's a really good, like, conceit for a horror movie. Like, it would be really hard to catch a killer like that whose appearance kept changing. I don't think they said how rapidly he was aging, but I mean, I think the movie took place just over a few months. You know what I mean? And he just looked like, because he started out looking like he was in his 30s, and then by the end, he looked like he was like an 80-year-old man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but so Donald Pleasence is like sure that it's him, but then he's kind of trying to like, he's kind of doubting himself, and the dude keeps calling him and like taunting him and like threatening he's going to do something to his daughter and all this other kind of stuff. So it's kind of like more a cat and mouse game. Like I said, really early on in the movie, that Michael York is the killer. He doesn't really seem to have... I mean, he's just killing people. The first kill, the doctor, he kills her, I presume, because she knew about his condition, and he didn't want anyone else knowing about it. I mean, I presume that was why.
I don't know about you, but I keep smelling that tomato sauce. I better go down and check on it. Smell that? I'm cooking some sauce. Down.
Oh, okay.
But I got it like on low, so it should.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't smell anything. But yeah. So I kind of feel like I lost track of what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Shit. No, it just went right out of my head. Yeah, Phantom said the love interest who was going to have Michael York's baby in this was hella beautiful and easy on the eyes. Yeah, and honestly, like I said, she was in a ton of giallo movies back in the 70s, and she looked even, like, more gorgeous back then. I can't remember. I know I've reviewed a couple movies that she was in. I think one was The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, but I can't remember what the other one... I've done a couple that had her in it, but she was, like, in a fuck ton of those movies back in the day. Phantom said Ron Jeremy calls himself a penis, yeah. Let's see. Oh, Phantom says the Robin Williams film Jack suffered from this disease. Oh, shit. I've heard of that movie, but I never saw it. I didn't really know. So I was like, okay, well, I guess then... Because the only one I knew of that had that trope was The Hunger. And like I said, technically David Bowie's character didn't have progeria in that movie. They just thought that that's what it was. Because he was... just started aging, like, super rapidly. John Gora said, I love how the killer just craps out from old age just right before he's about to knife the lady. Yeah, how many horror movies can say that? It's just kind of like he's trying to stab and then he's just like, oh, I just can't. He just like fucking cacks like right on her lawn. And then it just freeze frames. And then the credits roll, which I thought was kind of funny. Yeah, Phantom said, he didn't want them to see him. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Because like I said, the first murder, I got that because... You didn't know this at first because you didn't know who the killer was, like who killed this woman. But then like later on when you find out that was his doctor and that she was the one that told him, hey, you have this disease and you probably don't have long to live. Sorry, like to have to tell you that. I figured that he killed her just because he didn't want people to know about it. But then I guess like the next one he killed was his girlfriend, right? Like not Edwige Fenech, but the other one, the other girlfriend. So he killed her first. So I guess because he was famous, he didn't want anyone to see him deteriorating, I guess, which is maybe why he went to... But I mean, he didn't really have to kill people, though, but I guess the implication was that the disease was also kind of making him crazy, you know?
He was just going crazy, I think, because
of
the disease.
Yeah, so it could have been...
He was losing everything.
He was losing everything, because he was, like I said, he said he was only, like, 35.
Yeah, he was all hot and shit, and all the women looking at him like, ooh, now. You know, like,
yeah, because he looks like fucking
He looks like ass, yeah.
He looks like ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. So in a way, I kind of feel like in this one, I don't want to go too far, but, I mean, Michael York in this... Like, it's an Italian movie, so obviously it's going to be, like, slightly overwrought, just because that's just what they do.
That's what they do, yeah.
But, I thought his performance in this was actually really good. Like, he was almost sympathetic. Almost. Like,
I think he was supposed to be.
Yeah,
kinda.
like you could relate. You'd be like, man, that would suck so hard.
Yeah.
Like, getting that disease, like, all of a sudden, like, you're some hot 35-year-old, and then all of a sudden, like, you just start... looking like a 70-year-old man, like in a couple months, that would blow.
Yeah, and all the women that you used to be scoring fucking don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, or don't even recognize them because it's like he comes over to Edwige's house and she's just like, "Wait, who the fuck are you?"
He takes a huge fall in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really kind of sad. So like I said, I think that's why this is a good premise, like for a movie, and especially like one where he ends up being a killer. Like I said, obviously he didn't have to kill all those people.
He becomes kind of like the Eric from Phantom of the Opera. I mean, you could tell that's what they're trying to do.
And I got that because there was even a couple shots in this. Because there was one where he went to like a, like a party in Venice, like a, what are the masquerade, like a masquerade party in Venice.
Yeah.
And he wore, like, it wasn't a Phantom of the Opera mask exactly, but it was just like a white mask. And there was a really beautiful shot of him, like in silhouette, like walking, and then the mask is like laying in a puddle, like behind him.
It's not just a masquerade, it's a Venusian carnival.
Yeah. That
they do. It's a carnival.
Yeah, I know.
They dress up in old 1700s fucking clown outfits, kind of.
Yeah.
Masks and shit. It looks cool. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
So
almost
I think
kind of like Mardi Gras.
Yeah. So I think there definitely was a Phantom of the Opera element to this, where the killer was obviously a killer and needed to be stopped, but he was also kind of sympathetic, even though, like I said, he didn't. Because not only did he killed his doctor, he killed the girlfriend, he tried to kill Edwige and the baby, because at the end he was just like, well, I was gonna wait for the baby to be born, and then have you give him to me so I could kill it, because it would have the same thing. But he's like, now I know I don't have enough time, so I just got to kill you and the baby. So sorry.
It was some weird shit.
But she manages to get away. But he did kill that other woman too, who was that woman that was the first woman that he slept with. Didn't he say that? I didn't know if she was a sex worker.
Yeah.
Or if he just turned up at her house, like, oh hey, I didn't know you still lived here.
No, she was a hooker.
Because I think when they did the flashback of him, like, losing his virginity or whatever, like, I didn't think she was a sex worker back then. But maybe she was now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know. I wasn't super clear about that.
When he was in there, she was a hooker.
That's what I thought. Like, in the present, I thought she was...
She was pretending to recognize him, but I don't think she did.
Well, yeah. Well, didn't he say something that... I think he didn't look that bad.
Yeah.
At this point, but then he got mad because she kind of pushed him away, like, ew, because he was like kind of looking sort of gross.
Well, but I didn't think I thought she was pretending to know who he was. She's a hooker, man. She fucks fucking a couple thousand dudes a year. I didn't think she remembered him.
Yeah, maybe not.
Because he lost his virginity with her, and I thought she was kind of a hooker then. I thought that was implied.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if she was a hooker.
He said it was like only 10 years, 15 years ago.
Yeah, because Phantom said he lost his V card to her when he was 20 and she was 19. Yeah, that's right. That's what they said.
Yeah.
Because they did say with their ages.
So it's like 15 years ago. Well, she had shit, man. That's fucking 30,000 dudes.
Yeah, she's like, do you know how many dudes this is?
Yeah. She's trying to pretend like she remembers his ass. Like there's an individual dick barcode that is fucking imprinted into a hooker's head. She can't remember you.
I just had a really funny mental picture of you like scanning your dick over the self checkout.
7 or 8 dudes a night.
Publix.
7 or 8 dudes a night. She don't fucking remember that shit.
That would be super funny.
Yeah.
I just thought it'd be so funny. You just whip it out and go beep.
A dick is a dick is a dick. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's like they all.
Yeah, they're sick of them all.
They all look pretty much the same after that point.
Just work.
Yeah. Yeah, Phantom said she busted out laughing because she said she can never be attracted to someone like him. Yeah, and like I said, he wasn't even that bad at that. Oh, I forgot. He killed that police lady, too. Because remember, he called.
Yeah, he slit her throat.
Because he was, like, taunting Donald Pleasence, and he's like, hey, I'm going to be in this park, like, come get me. But, like, Donald Pleasence didn't know that he looked like an old fart now.
Yeah.
Like, he was still looking for him like he used to look, because he's been in hiding all this time. So it's like he has, like, bajillion cops there, and they're all, like, looking for him. And then he basically just goes right up to, just shuffles right up to the car with the female officer in it. Yeah. And is like, hey, give me your radio. And then it's like, hey, here I am. You know what I mean? I was
just marveling over those fucking late 80s vintage European cars. Everything looked like a Volkswagen Rabbit. But I know they all weren't. I think a couple of them were Volkswagen Rabbits. But I think I think Fiats and Volvos and shit, and they all looked about the same. I was just marveling over these little cars. I remember those. I remember that shit.
I was marveling over the shoulder pads.
Shoulder pads, yeah.
I think it was this one outfit in particular that Edwige was wearing. Like, she came in at some point, and it was like a blue, like an electric blue. It looked like a leather jacket, but it was like a short jacket. And wow, they were like, the shoulder pads were like out there. And I think she was wearing something earlier, because I think she was in the movie they didn't like dwell on this, but I think she was like a fashion designer or she owned a fashion house or something. Because I think there was a couple scenes where she was in there was like models and shit.
Yeah.
So I think that was her job. So there was another outfit where she had, and I was like, oh my god, that is one of the most 80s outfits I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Where it was like a shimmery green, like shiny green top, and it was just like so angular. Like these big shoulder pads and then coming down like that. And I was like, I don't know why everyone wanted to look like a triangle in the 1980s. But they totally did. She did look really good though. But like I said, Phantom, if you've never seen any of the older movies that she was in, check some of those out too, because she looked even more. I mean, she still looks really good in this, even though she's obviously older. But when she was like super, super young, she was like
Phantom mentions that Italian horror was big on using straight razors. Everything was straight razors. If you've ever fucking held a straight razor, you know, it's like not a good weapon really, because the blade is just on a hinge, so you can't get a good cut with it. I guess just because people know how sharp a razor blade is, it scares them, you know what I mean? But shit, man, I've owned fucking skinning knives, like old-timer skinning knives, 4-inch blade, curved, sharper than a razor blade. It's like a surgical scalpel. And just reduce a little deer carcass down into beautiful fillets in a matter of a few minutes. You know, it's sharp. And you could actually fight with that knife. You can't fight with a razor.
Well, like
it only looks good on camera.
Yeah, I think that's mostly what it is. Like a lot of stuff that's done in horror movies obviously wouldn't work in real life. They just do it because it looks cooler, looks scarier.
Cool. People know that a razor's fucking sharp. They cut themselves, and it does kind of have a sinister kind of look, but it doesn't have a hilt, and it can't lock into position. It's not very good, and it's not as sharp as you think it is. They're sharp, but a knife can be just as sharp.
If I remember correctly, the New York Ripper, which like I said, was what this movie kind of started out as, has a scene, because Lucio Fulci, of someone with the straight razor, the killer, going through, I think he slices through a woman's eyeball and through her nipple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In loving close-up.
Yeah.
It's pretty special.
Italians were into that.
Pretty sure that
Italians were into gore, man.
Yeah, like I said,
they weren't under control. Nobody was telling them what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like the United States where you had a bunch of censors
and they love eyeball shit. Like Lucio Fulci especially.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Lucio Fulci movie until someone got their fucking eye gouged out.
That old Italian cinema scene, you know, was cool because Italian cinema was cheap as shit. They didn't really have televisions in the 60s and 70s. You know, they had them, but they just weren't as common as they were, say, in the United States or other parts of Europe. So kids went to the fucking movies constantly, like once a day. You know, it was only a nickel to see it.
Did, right.
So they were just, you know, and all these fucking horror studio guys, you know, directors competing against each other, just coming up with crazy shit. They'd make up a fucking script and fucking a few days later they're shooting it and the fucking movie's done a month later. You know, fucking on a shoestring budget. They're fucking doing several of them a year. Or like several a month sometimes. Yeah. Some of them were just more prodigious than the Chinese or Hong Kong fucking theater. You know, Hong Kong film, the director would make fucking 6 movies a month. Imagine that. All editing in the camera. Same cast. And he's keeping all the fucking... keeping all the scripts straight and, you know, using the same locations and same actors, just changing the fucking costumes. Well, the Italians were kind of like that too. So, yeah, maybe the quality suffered. But the shit was coming so fast and gone so fast, nobody really cared what they did, I guess.
And the thing about it, too, is that there's a reason why Lucio Fulci, for example, or Ruggero Deodato, there's a reason why horror fans are still watching their shit all these many years later, because for everything you could say about Fulci, and, like, you know, he's mostly known here for his gore films, even though he made movies in pretty much every genre there is. But if you watch some of his movies, like The Beyond or something like that, the shots in there are, like, actually really beautiful. Like, they're not cheap. I mean, he made exploitative movies for sure, but there was, like, definite artistry behind him. It wasn't just, like, some cheap schlocky.
Right.
Like, he actually was making something that it seemed like he cared about, you know?
Well, that kind of goes along with the Italians also had a Western scene because parts of Italy looked a lot like California or in the Southwest. So you could pretend that you were somewhere in California or the Southwest and make fucking Western movies. Most of it was shit and just forgotten, just horrible stuff. But Sergio Leone, he fucking redefined what a Western movie should be. And really, Clint Eastwood, who worked for him, he was on several of the productions. Clint Eastwood fucking used Sergio's fucking recipes to do his own fucking, like Pale Rider and fucking High Plains Drifter. That's Italian fucking spaghetti western.
Yeah.
Done in America by Americans. And because, some of those Italian directors really were geniuses. Very talented.
Yeah.
And fucking Leone had his own thing and he had his own spin. It was post-apocalyptic fucking Western movies with these just grandiose fucking scores, And the music made everything very important, The movies sounded very important because he cared about them. And Italy had the talent, and as long as you paid for it, you could get a good script. You could get a good script, and you could get a good fucking score. And really, that's what you needed, especially in a Western.
Yeah, so I would argue, even though I know that Italy kind of had, or particularly in the 70s and 80s, kind of had a reputation for just doing, cheap knockoffs of American movies.
Yeah.
Every time, Jaws came out, hey, let's make, Devilfish. The Exorcist came out, let's make Beyond the Door, or whatever that Italian one, which actually I kind of like. But
it wasn't too bad.
It was actually pretty
scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
But yeah, so I kind of feel like I get why they have that reputation, but on the other hand,
they had some geniuses.
That's what I mean. And there was a lot of shit going both ways too, because you could say somebody like Dario Argento, who was very clearly influenced by Alfred Hitchcock, but then Dario Argento made his movies and put his own spin on them, and then he influenced, John Carpenter and stuff like that. So it was, and slasher movies, were influenced by giallo movies, which are Italian, obviously. So it was just kind of like a cultural exchange.
Yeah, most of the shit the Italians made was just shit, because it was just disposable. It was even disposable in Italy. But they did have some fucking masters. I mean, fucking Sergio Leone saved the Western movie. Because at the time that he appeared, Westerns were on their way out. The Americans did shit Westerns, They were just boring, and it was like something off of Bonanza, fucking definite good and evil, and people looked clean.
No
and
nuance.
It was just fucking, it's stupid. But then fucking Leone comes out, and it's basically Mad Max. Been Mad Max in the Old West. And that saved the American Western. You never would have had any of these other Westerns, The Unforgiven, or fucking, just none of them. They're all in the Italian style, basically, now.
Yeah. So.
Because that's not the American style. The American style, go back and fucking watch an old Western from the 50s. The American style fucking sucked. Sucked. Real boring.
Yeah, and like I said, they were kind of goody two-shoes,
Yeah. Although there was a couple good television series. Branded was kind of good. That one kind of had a little bit of grit to it from what I remember. That's the only one that comes to mind, really, that I thought was something kind of like an Italian Western. Branded. And it was about a guy who got kicked out of the army and branded a coward with a big fucking C brand on his face, but he wasn't. He was wrongly accused and shit. He was doing all kinds of shit.
He's like, you fucked up my face.
Yeah, fucked his face up. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. But yeah, so this movie, it's kind of cool because you could tell they really, really took it seriously. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I will say, parts of it are kind of slow, but honestly, the acting in this, like I said, is overwrought, but, in line with what they were doing in Italian cinema at the time. And you could tell they were trying to do something, like you said, kind of like Phantom of the Opera sort of thing, but, mixed with a giallo, kind of. But like I said, it's only like a giallo, in the first 20-30 minutes. Because, like I said, the reveal of the killer is, pretty quick. And then after that, it's just kind of it just kind of becomes a thing of like him, Michael York like deteriorating and Donald Pleasence trying to figure out why I can't catch this motherfucker because I know who it is, but it's all of the evidence is like saying that it's not him and he's getting confused and all this other kind of stuff. But like I said, it's not as gory as some of the other giallo films. Maybe like I said, it's not nearly as as gory or slashery or anything as like New York Ripper, which like I said had women being stabbed in the vagina lots of times, which is nice, and the nipple thing. This one, like, there's a couple kills in it, but they're not super over the top graphic, you know what I mean? And there is some boobies, but it's not super over the top. But I don't know, I kind of like that. It's a little bit restrained in the genre, but like I said, you could tell they took it seriously, and everybody on it like took it seriously, it seemed like. And it's a really good idea for a movie. I really like the idea of having a serial killer, essentially is what he is, like a slasher killer, who has progeria, and he's just getting older and older and older, like, as the months go by, and they can't figure out why they can't catch this dude because he looks different every time. And, the evidence is different every time. Like I said, I'm not real sure... I don't even know if they could do this nowadays. I mean, from skin cells found under a murder victim's fingernails, for example. I don't think, can they tell how old a person is? Can they tell how old the killer is?
No.
See, that's what I thought.
They just you'd have his DNA profile.
Yeah, you could have his DNA profile.
It was a male, probably.
Yeah.
Male
well, yeah, they can definitely tell that.
Not his age, though, I don't think.
But I don't think they can tell the age. But like I said, I was like, and they for sure couldn't do it in 1988. So I was like, they're just using that as a trope so that Donald Pleasence could be like, yeah, but you know what I mean? But now it says he's 50, and now it says he's this age and stuff like that. It would have made more sense if they didn't introduce that element, if they just would have had like people see him, and then every single time they're like, no, it was a 30-year-old guy, no, it was a 70-year-old guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is all different people. But you know what I mean? But like I said, it's not that big of a deal. Just don't think about it too much.
Phantom like this enough to buy the DVD copy of this.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Like I said,
it's in his collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's called. I saw a review by a Scottish dude, and it's called Off Balance in the UK, and I think in other countries in Europe, it's called Off Balance. But like I said, I think Phantom of Death it's not a great title, but I think it's a better title because, like I said, it's kind of a riff on Phantom of the Opera a little bit. Off Balance doesn't really make any sense to me.
He's off balance. He's going crazy.
Well, yeah, but I don't know.
Phantom of Death, fucking that plays in with the Phantom of the Opera fucking.
That's what I thought.
It's Phantom of the Opera spinoff. That makes more sense to me. Although I probably wouldn't have called it either one. I'd have made up another one. Fucking.
Yeah, maybe I think I would have played with
Stalked by time or stuff.
Yeah, like something to do with the aging.
Yeah,
like you don't have to really overtly like spell out
on the fucking nose.
What the you don't have to be super on the nose, but like you could, like you said, come up with something that sort of suggested time passing or age or something like that. I think that would have been cool. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Phantom is saying Ruggero Deodato made a pretty good 1986 slasher film called Body Count. That is sort of a ripoff of Friday the 13th, but with a killer shaman on a campground. It's pretty good, free on YouTube. David Hess is also in that film.
I know,
David Hess.
I know that title. I saw that when I was a kid.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, I've seen that before, and I remember kind of being scared by it. What year was that? Late 80s or early?
86.
86, mid 80s. Yeah, I remember that. Body Count. Yeah, had to see that one again.
Yeah, I wrote it down. So, because I like
it rings a bell.
I like David Hess, but I don't think I've ever seen that. So
that was something that they were playing on fucking Showtime and Cinemax.
Probably, yeah. Remember a while back I reviewed that the one movie that David Hess directed, which was To All a Good Night, which was not great. He's a much better actor than he is a director. I'll say that. But yeah, he was in that Wes Craven movie, Last House on the Left. Yeah, is where I remember him from. Played Krug. He was fucked up. He always played parts like that though, because he looks like, I'm sure he was a lovely person in real life, but he just looks like a scary motherfucker. So it's like he always played like fucking sleaze bags like that.
So you about ready to shut this one down? We finished with this one?
Yeah, I reckon
Because I gotta go
so.
up the store and get some Parmesan cheese if you
Oh,
want to come.
yeah, that's
You
right.
want to come with me? You just put some shoes on.
Yeah, I can come
If
with
you want to.
I can come
See if
with
they got some Epsom salt.
Oh, yeah. Because, yeah, they're open till for another
Yeah,
hour and a half. Something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. All right, so we are going to wrap it up for this evening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. For Wednesday's show, we're going to be doing a topic that I've been wanting to do for a while, which is cargo cults.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So yeah, I think that'll be an interesting show. I was watching a documentary about it earlier today that I'd never seen. It's called Waiting for John From, which is also free on YouTube if you want to watch that. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us this evening, and we'll see you guys again on Wednesday night. Good night.